She stood at the back entrance of the restaurant, gripping the strap of her worn-out handbag as if it were the only thing holding her together. Her fingers trembled slightly, and she pressed them tighter against the strap to hide the shaking. For years, she had worked as a caregiver, feeding strangers, changing dressings, comforting old souls whose families barely visited. But life had a way of changing lanes without warning. One accident, one unfortunate incident, one shift in circumstances, and suddenly she was nobody's caregiver anymore. She was just a woman desperately searching for a job that would help her survive another month. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with warm light and elegant conversations. From where she stood, she could hear distant laughter, the clinking of glasses, the soft hum of live music drifting from somewhere near the piano. She had played once, many years ago. But life had stolen that part of her too. Now she was here for a dishwashing job, a job no one fought for, but one she needed more than anything. The owner, a tall, confident man in his late 40s, stepped out from behind the counter, eyeing her with an expression that was far from welcoming. His expensive suit and polished demeanor contrasted sharply with her modest dress and slightly trembling hands. "You're here for the dishwasher vacancy?" he asked impatiently. "Yes," she whispered, clearing her throat softly. "If the position is still available." He crossed his arms, studying her like she was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. She knew what he saw, a tired woman, lines around her eyes, gray hair pulled neatly into a bun, wearing a uniform that belonged more to a nursing home than a restaurant. She wasn't glamorous, she wasn't young, and she certainly didn't look like someone who could impress anyone. She simply needed the job. "What experience do you have?" he asked. She hesitated. I used to work as a caregiver." He raised a brow. "A caregiver applying to wash dishes? That's quite a downgrade." The word stung more than she expected, but she forced herself not to show it. She had lost too much already to let pride sabotage the little she was still fighting for. "I just need work," she said quietly. The owner sighed dramatically, glancing over her shoulder toward the dining hall. "Listen," he said, "I don't hire just anyone. If you can surprise me, impress me somehow, maybe I'll consider it." His tone was mocking. He clearly expected her to fail. She lowered her eyes, nodding slightly. "I understand." He waved his hand dismissively. "All right then, surprise me. Show me something that proves you're not wasting my time." There was a long silence, so long the owner almost walked away. Then she lifted her gaze, and something shifted in her expression. Her timid, nervous look slowly dissolved. Her shoulders straightened. A faint memory flashed across her eyes, one that carried both pain and pride. Without a word, she turned and walked toward the center of the restaurant. The owner frowned, curious despite himself. "Hey, where are you going?" But she didn't stop. The restaurant grew quieter as the staff and guests noticed her. They saw a simple, aging woman in a faded caregiver's uniform walking towards the grand piano at the far end of the room, a piano that no one had touched all night. Whispers floated through the air. "Is she allowed to be here? Who is she? Is she lost?" She stopped in front of the instrument, her fingers hovering just above the glossy surface. It had been years since she had last touched ivory keys, years since she had poured pieces of her heart into melodies that once filled her home with warmth. She pulled out the bench slowly, almost reverently, and sat. Her hands trembled again, not from fear, but from memory. She inhaled deeply, and then, she began to play. The first note was soft, almost hesitant. The second was stronger. By the third, it was as if the piano recognized her, like two old friends reconnecting after decades apart. Her fingers glided across the keys with a grace that didn't match her worn appearance. The melody that flowed from the piano was heartbreaking, filled with longing, loss, and years of silent endurance. Conversations stopped. Forks were set down. People turned in their seats, captivated. The owner, standing frozen near the counter, felt something tighten in his chest. He had expected her to embarrass herself, to admit she had nothing to offer. Instead, she transformed before his eyes from a tired, aging applicant into a woman with a story woven into every note she played. Her music swelled, filling every corner of the restaurant. It wasn't the showy performance of a trained performer, it was deeper, rawer. Every rise in the melody carried a memory. Nights she spent caring for her dying husband, early mornings she walked to work in the cold, moments she held the hands of lonely patients who had no one else. Every fall in the notes carried sorrow, the job she lost unfairly, the bills piling at home, the dignity stripped from her piece by piece. She played like a woman who had lived a lifetime inside her own silence. When the final note faded, the room remained still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. And then, applause erupted. Not polite, not casual, it was thunderous, emotional, genuine. People stood, some wiped tears from their eyes. The woman looked down, overwhelmed. She wasn't used to being seen. She wasn't used to being valued. The owner walked toward her slowly, unable to hide the shock on his face. "Why didn't you say you could play like that?" he asked. She shook her head gently. "You didn't ask." He swallowed hard. "Where did you learn?" "I used to play when I was young," she said quietly. Before life got complicated. He didn't know what to say. She didn't look like someone who had ever been given a real chance. Maybe that was what struck him the most. "I told you to surprise me," he said softly. "You did more than that." She looked up at him, unsure of what came next. "You moved me." Her eyes glistened with gratitude. "So, do I get the job?" she asked. He laughed, an embarrassed, humbled laugh. "You don't get the dishwasher job." Her heart dropped. "You get a better one," he continued immediately. "A much better one. You'll play here. I want you as our restaurant's pianist, if you'll accept it." She stared at him, speechless. "But, I don't look like." "You look like someone who has lived," he said. "And your music proves it." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness this time, but from relief. From finally being seen, from finally being more than a struggling, forgotten woman. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you so much." That night, she walked home differently. There was still heaviness in her steps. Life wasn't magically fixed, but there was hope too. A new beginning she never dared to imagine. She held her handbag close, but this time it wasn't out of fear or desperation. It was because finally, after everything she had endured, after years of feeling invisible, after being judged, dismissed, and underestimated, someone had looked past her gray hair and tired eyes. Someone had seen the music still beating inside her. Someone had given her dignity back. And for the first time in a long, long time, she felt alive again.